All right, 2016 Chevy Colorado. So we got a little Duramax diesel in it. This thing has been kicking my butt. I should have started filming it from the beginning, but I'm gonna start now and film it. Long story short, the truck will not start. It won't even crank over. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. It seems to be worse when it's warm, but that's not always the case. For example, this morning I went to start it. It sat over the weekend in the shop. It was nice and cool, 50, 60 degrees. It started right up. And then I shut it off and now it won't start. I have different wires cut, but I got them looped back in with connections, so the whole entire CAN bus, because I think it's a CAN bus issue, is put back together with all my jumpers so I can get into the network easier. I got my breakout box hooked up to my VCMI. And if you look at here, well, I'm having issues with high-speed CAN. I have no comm to the electronic brake control module, which by the way is new. No comm to the ECM, the transfer case control module, and then the TCM, and then the chassis control module. But then other times I will. That's on high-speed bus. CAN. Right there, high-speed bus. So again, no comm to the chassis, the TCM, the EBCM, the ECM, or the TCCM. But sometimes I do. Well, actually, let me show you those codes real quick. Finish scanning up, scan here one last time. So the codes, I've had stuff unplugged and replugged in, so actually I'll show you. Lost comm with EBCM, inflatable restraint, power steering control module, lost comm with the ECM. It's all these U codes basically what I'm getting. Lost comm with the BCM, invalid data. Battery voltage, I have a maintainer on it right now. But anyways, it's all these lost comm codes, right? Well, if I go to my bus inspection, CAN high and CAN low. Sorry about the glare. There's CAN high and there's CAN low. They're both screwed up. If you remember before some of my other videos, this video specifically for a guy named Zach McLean, though he's in Arkansas, because I think he's gonna one that's gonna be able to help me figure this out. So should have made a video earlier for it, like I said, but we'll see what we can do here. Anyways, my bias voltage should be at 2.5, going to 3.5 for CAN high, and you can see it's all distorted looking. And in my CAN low, should be from 2.5 to 1.5, but it's all distorted. Well, if I go to my single CAN, which is pins 12 and 13, which is your chassis CAN, they look normal. There's CAN low. Let's go to 12. There's CAN high. That's pins 12 and 13. It's not perfect, I guess. It's not right at 2.5. But it should be a square wave like that. When I go to my high-speed CAN, I got it messed up. Well, when I came in this morning, this did not look like this. It looked perfect. The truck started right up. It ran. I had communication with everything. I ran it for a few minutes, maybe like 2 or 3 minutes. I shut it off, restarted it, and then it started doing this crap, and now it won't start again. It won't even crank, just like we had, or just like we have right now. Alrighty, so now here is the wiring diagram. So there's the termination resistor in the ECM, 120 ohms, and all the way at the other end, terminating resistor in the end at the very back of the vehicle, the back end of the vehicle, another 120. 120, I get 60, which I'll show you here in a minute, because I'm going to walk through everything with this, because I think it's a wiring thing, but can't prove that yet. Well, it goes through the control valve assembly, which is your transmission. It goes through your telematics control module, which it has. It goes through your transportation control module, which it has. Your human interface module, which this one has, I believe. Yeah, it does have it. To your BCM, down through your power steering control module, your electronic brake control module, EBCM, which I said is new, your chassis control module, and your termination resistor. Right here is where we're scoped at, the DLC. This is the BCM. I guess that would be your gateway, right? But this is just CAN high, CAN C. I know it's on this bus, because that's what we're looking at on this oscilloscope right here is why it's messed up. That is the bus that's messed up. Now, I got these different connections. So connector 103, if you can see that, or 101, sorry, it's the same diagram, I just have it bigger. 101 is by the battery right there. We'll just use this diagram here, it's the same thing. The next connector in line is 203. Well, 203 is in the passenger compartment, which is down right there in the passenger compartment. The next connector, which is X1, is at your BCM, which is right in there, which I have jumpered back. It's a good connection. Just got to trust me in that part. I've been through this for like several hours, so I know those connections are good for me doing my testing. But X1 is on top there, the white one. It goes into the into the BCM. It comes out on X6, which is the pink one. X6 comes out, which is what on the BCM, or on the BCM, sorry. And it goes to X106. Well, 106 is under the hood by these AC lines, right down in there. And then 103 goes into, then it goes into the power steering control module and back to 103, which 103 is right there, which I have hooked back up for connections. Goes to the EBCM, just halfway under the vehicle, back to the chassis control module, which is by the spare tire by the terminating resistor. So long story short, and we'll do it again on video, I've unplugged these modules one at a time. The bus still looks corrupt, like this. I've isolated this half of the network, it was corrupt. I'm like, oh, it's over here, or over here, I mean, and then I've isolated this one, then I think it's over here, but then I figure it's over here. I keep bouncing back and forth. So what I'm going to do next is we're going to check the resistance across the bus, because we have the whole bus integrity. All these wires are in it, like it's factory, except I got jumper wires in there. But it's going to be easier for testing, because I was isolating connectors. I'd split this connector, I'd split this one. I would use some wires from AS Wave to go around the stuff, and just when I think I'm getting somewhere, then throws me for another loop. So again, the bus is all back together. I'm going to check termination resistance next to show you that. And again, we should get 60 ohms across the bus. 120 and 120 in parallel, should get 60. Okay, the only thing I have hooked up to the DLC, which by the way goes to pin X2 on the BCM. Sorry about the walking back and forth, but X2 right there is where we're hooked up at, right at the end there. You know, just in case it comes into it. I have my VCMI unplugged from it, so I'm just literally reading pins across 6 and 14. I got the battery hooked up, but I got 61 ohms. I'm like, okay, that's good. let's just unhook the battery anyways. Let's turn our power supply off. Unhook the negative. This will probably be a couple part video, or who knows how many parts. Okay, 60 ohms across the bus. Like, okay, that's good. I don't have a termination resistance issue. Now, if I hook the battery back up, then you can see it goes all over the place, right? 1.4 thousand, but that's because we have the battery hooked up. If I unhook this again, just the termination resistance on the bus, I got 61.7 ohms. That tells me the bus integrity wiring from here to there is good. I mean, as far as the resistance, but I still don't have communication to all these modules. So I'm going to hook the VCMI back up next. Alrighty, I hooked the battery back up. I got my breakout box, which I could just use the VCMI to it, because it acts like a breakout box for doing the bus inspection, but I like doing that, well, I guess to check the resistance too, I suppose. But, key on, engine off, everything's hooked up. Can high is messed up. Can low is messed up. Alright, so I scanned it again, right? Again, can C, high speed can. I have no comm to the chassis, the TCM, the EBCM, the ECM, and the transfer case control module. So again, no comm to the chassis control module, the TCM, the EBCM, the ECM, and the TCCM. I'm like, okay, so I circled those. I have no comm to the ECM, the transmission, which is the TCM, the transfer case control module, the electronic brake control module, which is the EBCM, and the chassis control module. And I'm scoped right there. So I have comm to the human interface control module, which is that one. So I'm coming in there, I have comm to the human interface control module, which I do, which I have U codes because it's not talking to the other ones. I don't have comm to the transfer case control module, which is a TCCM, but I have comm to the telematics control module, which is this one. And I'm like, okay. Well, and then I don't have comm to the ECM. Well, if I don't have comm to this, but I can still talk to this one. So I can come in, I'm talking to the human interface module. I can't talk to the fucking TCM, or transfer case control module, TCCM, but I can talk to the telematics one, but I cannot talk to the transmission, which is the TCM, and the engine one. And that's on this side, X1 on the BCM. On this side, X6, again, I'm still scoped there, the DOC. I can talk to the power steering control module fine, but I cannot talk to the EBCM, and I cannot talk to the chassis control module. So I'm like, okay, that makes some more sense. You know, I can talk to this, but I can't talk to this or this. So like, it's, you know, it's in series like that, right? But then this side, I can talk to this, I can't talk to this, but I can talk to this. How am I talking to this when it's talking, not talking to this when it's talking to this? So I'm like, okay, well, there's our data. We know the bus is messed up. So then I'm like, you know what? Let's come up with a plan of attack to isolate and split this network in half, or unplug a module at a time. So again, here's can high, can low messed up. Again, when it does go back to 2.5 and the reading is correct, I can talk to everything the truck starts, which it's not doing that right now on camera. And it seems to be getting worse. I have been moving wires around. I know these things are notorious for chafing because everything is just shoehorned in there. But I've been moving the crap out of stuff, isolating stuff. I mean, those zip ties look aftermarket. But anyways, it doesn't completely make sense to me. Maybe through these videos it will, or some people's inputs out there. So now what I did is what I'm going to do again, and as I'm going to isolate this. So I'm just going to take, I can take X1, which is white connector, or X6. I'm going to take the X6 connector off, which is pins 24 and 25, which is light blue and white. And I'm just going to disconnect it here, which I cut the wires, and then put a termination resistor in there. So all I'm doing is checking through the term resistor, which eliminates all this crap, but I still have a term resistor in there. And then I'm still checking this side. Then I'll do the opposite. So let me get that set up next. Again, X6, 24, 25. There's 2 wires. Just for testing purposes, let me turn this key on. I don't like doing it like this, but I've been doing this for several hours, like I said. There's the connector right there. Those are the wires, right? So these are the wires there. Here's my term resistor, 120 ohms. So I'm going to put it in 120, which is going to resemble this 120 right here. So it's cut right here, and I'm just this is going to be cut out of the equation, and 120 is going to be right there. And to prove that, those wires are still cut there. I didn't hook nothing up yet. I'm just going across 6 and 14. 120 ohms. Now I'm going to put my other 120 in there in parallel. Put my other 120 ohm resistor in parallel. 60 ohms across the bus. So again, what I did is I just cut these 2 wires. All these connections, power steering control module, EBCM, chassis control module, terminator resistor is gone. And I made my own terminator resistor there. Even the wiring that goes through, like a lot of this wiring goes through, it's going through that connector down there, the 103, through the power steering, it comes up under here, up under there where it chafes a lot. I'm like, okay, I'll get rid of all that crap just to split the circuit in half, conquer and divide, right? So now all I'm checking, so when I'm scoping, is I'm checking this network here, these modules here. So I'm like, okay, but yet I still got a corrupt bus. Right? Can high's jacked up, and can low's jacked up. So, if I was to go back and pull up the topology again, obviously it'd be the same thing, I would imagine, except I can't talk to the power steering control module because I deleted that from there. So I'm like, okay, well, if this thing is looking out, if this is out of the equation down here, and I'm checking over here, this has got to be the screwed up side. But I'll show you that here in a minute when I flip-flop it. Okay, now I don't have com to the power steering control module, obviously, because we took it out of the equation. I just have com to the BCM, the telematics one, which is this one, and the human interface one. Human interface one. Maybe I was like, well, maybe, and I don't know how accurate this topology is on the Sawtell. Maybe these ones that I'm having comm with this one and this one, maybe it's on another bus as well, and that's why I'm getting comm to it. Perhaps. I could look in the schematics for that. But either way, go back to the top, or bus inspection. Either way, though, as far as we know, the bus is messed up. We can see it with this scope. So can high, can low. So we're like, okay, this bus is messed up. Like I said, I eliminated all this. I got 120 ohm resistors. I'm like, okay, it's got to be on this side. Let's put this one back together and then put a resistor in this one and see what our bus looks like on this side. Because I'm like, oh, it's got to be on the other side. Well, I'll show you that next. All right, so what I did now is I put these wires essentially back together, jumping them back together. And then I have this one unhooked right now. And I'm going to do the same thing I did over here, but on this side. Put a 120 ohm resistor in there. Before I do that, I got 120 right there, right? Because I got the X6 one plugged back in and hooked up. Or not, it's been plugged in, but the wire's hooked back up. And the other one open. So that was me bumping my stuff right there. 120 ohms. Again, to reiterate that, this is all back in, but I have it open or cut right here. All back in, cut. So what I'm reading right here is the terminating resistor in the back of the vehicle. Now I'm going to put one in here to make a 120 and make 60 across the bus. Got my terminating resistor in there, 60 across the bus. So now we'll hook up the scope again, bus inspection. To reiterate, I got this cut. This is all out of the equation now. But I got a 120 ohm resistor there. All I'm checking is through the DLC is the 120 ohm resistor there through these modules here, through that resistor there. Again, when I don't know if I touched on this earlier, when I'm checking resistance, I unplug my VCMI. When I'm going back in, I unplug my voltmeter just to make sure testing is the same. So now, key on, engine off, battery's hooked back up. This is all to the equation. I got 60 or 120 ohm resistor there. So we got 60 across the bus. I'm just checking this side now. And yet our bus is still messed up. Can low, can high, can low. So I'm like, well, okay. Well, before I thought it was going to be this side that was bad. They split this circuit in half from here to here and here to here. Well, I thought, oh, this side was bad. Now I'm like, well, the other side's bad, or vice versa. But what? And I'm like, okay, well, what the hell is the commonality? It's in the BCM, right? That's what I'm thinking after I do several other tests. New BCM, doesn't even matter. You can't even program it, obviously. I mean, we don't have the new one in now. That is a new one, but you can't even program it because it won't even talk correctly. So that's the test I did there, along with other tests I did. And you just saw this test on camera, obviously, because it's still messed up. But other test I did was I unhooked it. I unhooked each module. Still got correct data. I took crossover cables, not crossover cables, these AS wave cables, and I maybe thought there's a wiring issue between here and here, so I took it from the BCM all the way down to the power steering control module. Same thing. I'm trying to see what else I did. I could do some more stuff on camera, but we'll kind of see what comes from all this stuff. Again, I unplugged each module. Didn't really matter. I split the circuit in half. It didn't really matter. I unplugged different connection points throughout the vehicle. Didn't really matter. So let me put the bus all the way back together. I'll hook this back up so we're complete on the bus, and then do another test or something, and then go from there. And this will probably be part one of this video. Alright, so I got everything hooked back up. The whole bus is back to these breakout leads. Like I said, I hate cutting those wires, but I've isolated different connections and I could not come up with anything, so I wanted to break it down even farther. Everything's back to factory per se, and my bus is still messed up, which there's can high, there's can low. Before I upload this video, there's a couple tests we can do here, like X203, which isn't the one in the passenger foot compartment area down over there. If I isolate that 203, if I unplug that, then everything's out of the equation as far as the transfer case, control module, telematics, transmission, and the engine. I'll do that real quick, but then we'll have no 120 there, which we can put a 120 resistor in there, but that's not going to be any different testing besides we're including the human interface module. I'll just unplug it to show you. So it's unplugged. Obviously that's more than a couple wires just for CAN. It's got the bunch of other stuff. Now it really looks screwed up, right? Why does it look like that? CAN high, CAN low. And all I did was unplug connector 203, which is right there. I guess I could put a resistor, a 120 resistor right there, and then see what it looks like on this side. Alright, so just to show you what I got going on here, we'll go ahead and do that. Batteries off, key off, everything. 120 ohms. Right? Because essentially, right now, I have this X203 thing unplugged. We'll get a better picture here. I have it unplugged right there. So this is out of the equation from here down. I'm reading 120 from here. I'll put the termination resistor back in. 120 back in parallel right there on the male side of the connector. There's your white and your blue, the male side. And I know it's the male side because I want to be on the male side. That's the female, that's the male. The male goes into the female. Usually. Now I got 60 ohms across the bus. Now I want to scope it and see what it looks like. So what I'm doing is I have this crap with these modules, transfer case, telematics, control valve for the TCM, and the engine computer out of the equation, and I just have it reading these here. And it's still jacked up. CAN high, CAN low. CAN engine off, battery hooked up, CAN engine off, scoped at the DLC, termination resistance there with that connection unplugged. And all I'm looking at is, I'm checking here and I'm going down through all this stuff and going down through up to this with the term resistor there. But imagine these other ones got to give some kind of bias voltage, and maybe that's why we're seeing this waveform messed up. Let's go scan the whole vehicle again just to see. But like I said earlier, why when I split it from one side and from the other side, what do I get bust messed up on both sides? That's what I'm missing. I'm not sure there. We'll see though. We'll scan this thing. Does want to scan. I get 0 volts because my VCMI, because I'm not getting 12 volts on my pin 16. Because my box ain't lit up. When I unplug it over there, I don't get power on my pin 16. Let me just run a jumper to that quick. Alright, so I got pin 16 power there. Still got my term resistor over there. Just giving it power from the little lead right here. But now I got power again. But if you look here, only have come to my BCM and my power steering control module. Power to my, let me see here. Only have part of the BCM, the power steering control module. BCM, power steering control module. I thought we didn't have comm to that earlier. Could have sworn we didn't. No, we did, because it's not circled. No, we always had comm to the power steering control module, which we still do. Disregard that last comment. We do have comm to the power steering control module, which we do there, and the BCM. So those two. But we don't have comm to the telematics now, or the human interface one. Human interface or telematics. Why? I imagine it's because we unplugged it at 203. Well, if we unplugged it at 203, which we did, we put a term resistor right here. We would not have comm to the telematics, which we don't. But why don't we have comm to the human interface one? Which we don't, but we did before. That makes no sense why we don't now, but we did before, even though we're just down at this area. Granted, other things go through this connector 203 as well. Probably like a power or something to power that module up. That's probably what's going on. It's probably why I don't have comm. It's just not comm. There's other, it's not just CAN bus wires. I mean, I could cut them like it, but I don't want to keep cutting wires on this thing. There's probably other power and ground wires that go through that, and that would make sense. Back to bus inspection one more time. You can see that it's still messed up. And if I go to my other CAN, my not low speed, the 12 and 13 pin, it's, you know, it's a little off, but it's the bias voltage, but it's square wave. Kind of a mute pointer, but we know we're on this bus right here. CAN low, CAN high is both messed up. Let me take that term resistor out and put everything back together. Interesting. When I have power going to pin 16 on my DLC, it's messed up. When I unpower it, the DLC, it's still messed up, but it's even more messed up. You can see that there. Really screwed up. Well, it wants power to run the machine. If I hook it back up, and all I'm doing with that wire is literally going to the breakout box for pin 16, because it usually comes from that connection over there. Because we're opening up that connection, but we don't have more than one wire. Maybe I should cut those. Let's hook back up. There we are. I'm going to put all that back together next. Alrighty, I got everything hooked back up, like I said. Key on, engine off, battery hooked up, key on, engine off, connectors, everything's plugged back in as per factory, per se. And when I fault scan it, you can see here from Topology. So I did want to comment one other thing here. We don't have comm to the chassis, or we have comm to the telematics one, the human interface one, and the power steering control module. Well, why do we have comm to the power steering control module? If it's high-speed CAN, why do we have comm to that? Because if you look at, it's got chassis on it. It must be talking on that bus 12 and 13, the power steering one. I'm like, oh, okay, that's why that one's talking. But the telematics one, why is that one talking? Well, it could be talking on low-speed CAN. But then the human interface one is the only one I do not understand why that one's talking. According to Topology and Auto, it's only got one bus on it. And why is the BCM talking? Because it's on low-speed CAN as well. And it's essentially the gateway, right? But the only thing that doesn't make sense that's talking is the human interface module. According to the Auto Topology, the human interface module is talking, but maybe it's because this topology is wrong. Let me look up the schematics on that next. So I'm looking through the schematics. So Just show you on the computer here. This is we're looking at high-speed GM land. That's the schematics we've been looking at the whole entire time, right? But we're like, why is the power steering control module talking, but it's not talking the high-speed bus, it's talking on the chassis bus? Well, if you look in here, if I go back, I go to the chassis high-speed bus, power steering control modules on the chassis bus here, 13 and 14. And that's the ones that look good, right? And there's your turn resistor, there's your airbag, and then your electronic brake control module. What the heck? Am I reading that right? Electronic brake control module. Sorry, I had to plug my phone in. So, power steering control module also goes through to 12 and 13. That's why we can talk onto it, but we can't talk on the high side. We can, the GM land side, I guess, but the chassis bus we can. But it's also talking about a term resistor and EBCM, which has got a new EBCM. Anyways, that's how we can talk to that side. You go to the most bus, media-oriented communication, human interface module, human machine interface module, the audio amplifier, instrument cluster, goes through the radio, and I suppose that's why we can talk to that as well. So that topology doesn't show everything, but it does show us that on these schematics here, it shows us that that's why we can talk to those two modules. That's why we can talk to the the power steering module, because it's on the chassis bus. Even though we can't talk to nothing else, we can talk to the human interface module. Even though we can't talk to nothing else, it's on the most bus, along with the telematics one, which is probably on the most bus as well, I'd imagine. Well, it even shows you it's on the low speed bus on the topology. So this whole bus, we can talk to some of these modules. Most of them we can't, but some we can because of other buses that tie into them. However, we can't talk to anything else on this bus because the bus is messed up. But I isolated from this side and then this side, splitting it, unplugging stuff, and I still cannot get the bus restored. That's where I cannot figure that part out, and that's where I got to do some more testing. Yeah, as far as the telematics one, it is on a low speed bus. GM land right there. So that answers that. So again, our whole high speed bus though is messed up. So we know it's down to that bus, but where the heck is it at? So I let this thing play the whole entire time. Key on engine off with a battery maintainer. I got some Pizza Hut. Been let sit here for like 45 minutes. Everything's hooked up. And look now. Can high is good. Can low is good. I mean, it's not perfect bias voltage. It's 2.3. But it's just been sitting for like maybe 45 minutes. Let me see if it starts. And look, it starts right up. CAN bus is good. So let's just let it run a little bit. Alrighty, this thing's been running for like an hour, 45 minutes, an hour. And if you look here, CAN high still good. CAN low still good. Let's go back and scan it before I turn it off, because this is what I was going to talk about in the video too. So when I cycle with power, it won't always start again. So let's just scan it quick. Now we got COM to everything. Doesn't have the trailer module. It has all this stuff, right? I don't know why it's got cylinder calibration incorrect codes. Never had those before. I don't know. We just got to clear everything, but at least we can talk to everything now. But watch this. I'll go back to the bus inspection, and I'll cycle power here. And it may or may not do it. We'll see. Let's just look at the single can real quick. Same thing. Go back to high speed. Okay. I'm going to turn it off and then turn it on. Now it's working good again. High, low, turn it off. Can engine off, it's still working good. Usually, or sometimes when I cycle the key, this bus, can high and can low, will get all messed up. Now it's not. Yet. I mean, I'm sure it eventually will. And we didn't change nothing. We just got all of our wires back to factory like we had before. I was going to start isolating more modules, but we needed to act up again. But our bias voltage to me is not perfect either. It's not right at 2.5. Just cycling power a few times, see. And this is what it did for the customer. We'd do the same exact thing. Sometimes it would, you'd run it, you'd turn it off, and it wouldn't start, and you'd have to wait a while, 15-20 minutes, it would start. I started moving stuff around, well, probing, unhooking connectors, moving it, and it got worse until right now, where it seems to be normal for right now, but we need to act up again. Alright, so I unhooked everything. You can see it's working fine there, but that's the longest it's actually worked for me for a while. I've worked this thing for like the last week and a half, even maybe a little bit more. So it will do it again. I'm just going to end this video here and call this part 1. See what you guys think. I got, like I said, I have a buddy Zach McLean out there that's really good at this stuff, and I'm curious on what he thinks, and he'll probably have some other testing methods and stuff, and just want to get with him on that and see what you guys think. But again, what I can do is I got on my, I can, you know, solder my wires back in, or I can leave them all for testing purposes, depends which way I go. I can unhook other connectors in the vehicle to see what I need to do to isolate it, but we'll call this part 1 for now, and then we'll go part 2 and next and see what we can come up with.